Hello friends, it is Catherine Massell, Ascending Earth Creatrix, Spiritual Growth Catalyst, Master Intuitive Energy Healer. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the beginning of your week. It is Monday here in the Northern Hemisphere, 1:30 in the afternoon in Tahoe. Hello. About to get a massive storm coming through, so I'm kind of excited, kind of scared, kind of excited. I wanted to take this opportunity to go live before maybe I wouldn't be able to anymore. So if you're here, say hello, let me know you're here. Hi, Benita. What happens when you learn how to objectively review your life? That's okay, Stephanie. The live is still there in our group, and you can check it out. Hello. I want to say this right. Is it Katira or Kafira? I can't see without my glasses. Katira. What a pretty name. Hello, hello. So what does it mean to be the objective reviewer of your life? And why is it so important? What's the benefit of that? What do you get out of it? And how do you do it? Well, here's what happens. I'll tell you first what happens, and then we'll kind of reverse engineer it. Here's what happens when you learn how to objectively review your life. And when I say objectively review, I mean if you are able to go into a place where you can look at your life and review it, kind of like a fly on the wall, rather than relive it, that's called being the objective observer, meaning you are not subject to reliving whatever has happened to you that has been either positive or negative. Maybe you have had some very uncomfortable past experiences and you'd rather not go back and relive those. But here's the thing. If you are to some degree living out this trauma from these past uncomfortable experiences in your life every single day, and maybe you're unconsciously checked into reliving these emotions, kind of bringing your past into your future every day, into your present every day, and then your future. What you're doing when you do that is you're basically becoming this product of your past every single day, and you are not moving beyond your past. And in a sense, in terms of the emotional chemical response that we have in the body, we become addicted to those emotions, especially if we've had uncomfortable situations happen in our lives and we are unconsciously checking into that level of trauma every single day from it. What we end up doing is we keep reliving that trauma. We're not consciously checked into it, but we keep living the emotions out of the fear, the panic, the chaos, the suffering, the struggle, the pain, the anguish. And when we can not be subject to those emotions, those chemical responses, what we can do is be objective. Hi, Catherine, how are you? And when we are objective, when we can review, not relive our life experiences, we get to do something really, really special with what we uncover there. We get to gain wisdom and insight from the lessons of those past experiences. We get to objectively review, okay, well, how did this hurt me? I get the benefit of not only this hindsight from maybe years, decades back in the past, but how that's led up to maybe just yesterday or just this morning. How do I continue to bring this trauma, this level of discomfort into my life every single day? And where am I living in this limited state because of that? And when you learn how to objectively review your life at that level, here's something really wonderful that happens. From this objective observer standpoint, which is basically going into this place where you can embody the higher intelligence that is really running the show within you. We think that it's, this maybe kind of mean-spirited person within us that's kind of running the show, especially if we are living a life of limitation or lack. But there is a higher intelligence running the show. It's running everything. It's running the things that we don't have to think about or consciously direct, like bodily functions, our autonomic nervous system, things like that. This higher intelligence that's running the show in terms of keeping the body generating and moving and maintaining. But it's also running this program of our divine self all the while. Even though we may not be consciously checked into this part of ourselves, we can be. If we learn how to redirect our thoughts, redirect our feelings, and be more of a conscious director of the subconscious, yes, that is entirely possible. We start realizing that this kind of stream of divinity consciousness that's always running, that's always going, gets kind of, these layers of subconscious programming kind of layered over it so much that we kind of have to dig through to find this level of us. And once we do, and we can review and observe our life from this vantage point, everything shifts. And I mean everything. And quickly. And when you make this a daily practice of objectively reviewing your life, which I do, and my clients who work with me and have had amazing results with this also do, even after we work with each other, after our programs are over, after our one-on-one sessions are over, the people who still institute this method that I teach them, it yields incredibly powerful, sometimes rapid and sometimes radical results for them. When you do this every single day and you are able to be the objective observer of your life, you get to see these patterns, these programs. You kind of pull back the lens on the minutia of your everyday life that we get so wrapped up in because, let's face it, most of us and much of our day is spent in this survival mode consciousness where we are just maintaining. We're trying to put out fires. We're in crisis management mode. I just got to get through this hour, this day, this week, blah, 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 whatever that is. We're not consciously checked into the present, which is pure creation, basically. When you are consciously checked into and allowing yourself to expand into the present moment, we are the conscious creators of our reality, and we are directing a way of being while accessing the pure potential of any and all possibilities that are available to us. That's how powerful the present moment is. And the sad truth is, many of us live our lives completely ignoring the present moment. Because we're so wrapped up in what needs to happen in the next hour, in the next day, the next week, the next month. This bill is due then. I got to take the kids to this place then. I got to talk to my husband later. And we're also living in the past, so there's this big container that's taking our attention away from the present as well. I just put out a post that the present moment is the most largely unused piece of energetic real estate. Hi, Maya. Hi, Tasha. It's completely true. And the conditioning of our everyday lives, and especially the way society is at this point where we're constantly being directed to look at a million different things, to multitask. We are overstimulated. We are being constantly poked and prodded to look at this, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at the other thing, worry about that, deal with this. You still haven't dealt with this thing. You still have to deal with this thing. We are overstimulated, and we are put in a place where we are not directed to be in the present moment. Because we feel like if we just stop, if we lose the momentum of all the stuff that keeps us in this kind of minutia, this crisis management mode of the day, we'll lose our momentum, we'll forget what we were thinking about, and we'll lose our train of thought, and then we'll not be able to get to all the things we need to get to. This is not life. This is not how we were meant to live. This is not us being run by divinity consciousness. This is us being run by survival consciousness. And we are slaves to it. We are shackled to it. Shackled to it. And the only way we unshackle ourselves... Hi, Stacy. Yes, Tasha says distraction galore. Exactly. We're in this this illusion, and this very seductive illusion, that if we stop for a minute, if we stop being busy, then we're not being productive. And I'm here to tell you that it's absolute bullshit, because being busy and being productive are two entirely different things. And even if you did equate them, If you're busy and productive, you're producing something. What are you producing? Who is it for? Is it for you? Is it elevating your experience? Is it bringing you to this level of connecting more with the divinity that is running the show, that is the higher intelligence within you? Are you connecting with that? Are you listening to that part of you? And not only are you listening to that part of you, are you taking action, divine inspired action from that part of you? I would say that anyone who's going to listen to this call, maybe let's just give it the benefit of the doubt here. Like 80% of you, the answer would be no. I don't have time for that. So what are we making time for exactly? And when you are able to answer that, hopefully honestly and candidly, what you are making time for is what you're making time for serving you ultimately. All those things that you said you're going to do, that you decided to do, you resolved to do at the beginning of this year, are you even walking that path at all? Are you even kind of leaning in that direction at all? Or are you saying, I'll get to that, I got to get to that stuff first? And when does that end? Right? So this survival mode consciousness, if we are looking at our lives from this subjective standpoint, meaning we can't get out of the frame of mind that put us in this place that kind of introduced all the problems to begin with, if we can't extricate ourselves from that level of consciousness, we can't solve this problem, because you can't solve a problem with the same energy that created it. So you have to be able to move out of this state, the survival, crisis management, I'm constantly putting out fires state of being. And until you learn how to do that, you are subject to your experiences, and you are not tapped into the fact that you just keep recreating more of the same, because you're not breaking the tethers, you're not severing this connection, this momentum, this kind of juggernaut that most of us find ourselves in, which is survival state consciousness. I just got to do this, I just got to do this, I just got to do this, until we fall into bed, I take that back, collapse into bed at the end of the day feeling like, phew, I got through another one, but I didn't get to do this thing I really wanted. I didn't get to work on my project. I didn't get to write in my journal. I didn't get to meditate. I didn't get to call my friend. I didn't get to serve me. So you're serving this kind of nameless power, the same nameless power that tells us we have to be busy all the time because that means being productive. And we're not really serving our own divinity. We're not serving the highest idealized version of ourselves. We're not fulfilling that. We're not living in a daily mode that feels meaningful, that feels resonant with something much more expansive than just getting through the day. This is not how we're meant to live. This is not how we're meant to go in our lives day in and day out and be so checked out of the present moment that we don't even know what we're doing anymore until it finally catches up to us and something in our life blows up. And if we keep this erratic pattern of living going, I can pretty much guarantee you that something is going to blow up. Because if you're not willing to consciously pull back and be the objective reviewer and observer in your life and see what's out of whack and take steps to redirect it, the universe steps in and does it for you. And something that's been going along just fine, and even though maybe in the back of your mind you're aware of, yeah, you know what, I know this thing is kind of effed up right now and I'll fix it later, I'll fix it later, I'll fix it later, and later becomes like months later, and then eventually everything just implodes, which was for many of us 2018, right? For many of us that was 2018. And maybe it was a series of smaller implosions, maybe it wasn't one major big bang event. For some people it was, some of my clients it was. But you have to look at that too from this place of being the objective reviewer. Because there's a reason why that happened. Because the level at which you were going on, this momentum that you created was not sustainable. It's like having a big house and having everything plugged into every outlet and everything turned on at once, and then a fuse is going to blow. That's just inevitable. If everything's going full bore, chugging along at full speed, something's gonna give, okay? And if we're not the ones who are going to be the conscious redirectors and the ones to kind of sever this process, to slow ourselves down, the universe in its infinite love for you will step in and do it for you. Now that is a gift, and if you are in the objective reviewer mode, you get to see it as such, but you also get to do something else. You get to understand that, okay, so now this momentum has been broken, this energy has been severed, this survival mode consciousness has slowed down enough that I can take a breather and I can see what I got here. From the shrapnel and all the pieces that are left over, I get to say, okay, do I want to put all this back together like it was? And if I did, what would be the reason for that? Do I just want to keep the status quo? Like, be honest with yourself. I'm really asking you here. If you have an opportunity presented to you right now, or you had the opportunity presented to you to put things back just the way they were, what would be the drive for you to do that? Status quo. Is there something you're pretending to not know about yourself? Is there something that you do know about yourself, but you are just not willing to deal with it at all? And maybe that, let's face it, that's because maybe you had that behavior modeled for you by a parent, a friend, a spouse, okay? For a long time, I didn't want to look at stuff at all because that was my dad. I was my dad, basically. I was just like, yeah. I got other stuff I got to do. I got people to take care of. I got things to do. I can't look at this right now. I know it's a problem. I get it later. Until later became today. And then on that today, I had everything blow up in my life and I had to reevaluate everything. And I was forced to go into that objective reviewer mode. Now, you don't have to wait for your life to blow up to go into this space. And when you make this a conscious decision to go into objective reviewer mode, you lose the survival mode consciousness, meaning you lose that energy that created this problem to begin with. And you are able to move into, kind of merge into a different state of being. This observer state is aligned with something that I call the creative state. And the creative state is the exact opposite of survival mode consciousness. This creative state allows you to pull back the lens on your life and see all the moving parts for what they are, without having to relive the pain of the trauma of the reason things got to where they are, without you having to be the subject of those draining emotions that keep pulling you back into the past over and over again, so that you're living out your past and your present over and over and over again. You don't have to do any of that. Instead, you get to see the bigger lesson at play, and you get to choose from this place where you're not forced into a corner because survival mode consciousness has made your life blow up. Instead, you're able to objectively choose, I can either be this person now and put the pieces back together this way, or I can be this old person who doesn't want to do anything that isn't reminiscent of my past familiar self, because anything else is too uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. The one constant for us as human beings, and especially as part of this whole human awakening process, this human awakening trajectory that we are all on, by the way, the one thing that is constant and universal for every single one of us is change. You can't ever disregard it. You can't ever pretend that it's not there. We try to pretend that it's not there, but we've kind of seduced ourselves into buying into the illusion that we can pretend change doesn't happen. But when we do that, we push ourselves to that point of things having to blow up even more. If you accept that change is this universal constant, and that we can actually choose a perspective, an objective perspective, where we can flow with these changes and kind of ride the waves of it with a little more grace, with a little more joy even, with a little more sense of, you know what, it's okay if I can't predict every single outcome. It's okay if my life doesn't look the same tomorrow as it did yesterday or the day before that or even last week. That's okay, because change is inevitable. And it always has something to teach me. I can always grow and become more of the person, the ideal version I want myself to be in this lifetime, if we have the grace of being able to flow with change. This only comes from being the objective reviewer. And this only comes from being in the creative state, because you can't be the objective reviewer of your life when you are in the survival state. Those are two completely negating vibrations. They cancel each other out. They're mutually exclusive. Because when you are in survival mode consciousness, you are in the subjective mode, meaning you are subject to all the feelings, the thoughts, the beliefs, the stories that you're telling yourself, the memories that you're living out from the past and bringing into the present, the mood that you're in. You are subject to all of that. And all the sensory input that kind of keeps that on a feed, you are subject to all of that. When that is happening, you cannot remove yourself from it to be in the creative state. Not unconsciously anyway. So when you learn how to consciously redirect this, everything shifts. Everything changes. And if you want to know more about this, then you want to be in my course on February 7th, because I teach you how to do this and a method to move out of this, but to create from this place. And in the beginning, before you really learn how to create in this space, what you're able to do is go into this life review. You go into this life review where you look at some very, very deep questions. We probe pretty deeply here. And if you remember the question I posed just a moment ago, what are you pretending to not know about yourself? If I were to ask that of you right now in a subjective state, maybe you are, I got to sign off. Thanks, Catherine, for letting me watch it, for putting this out here. I want to watch it, but I got to go back to it later because I got to do this, that, and the other thing. You're in that kind of crisis management mode. You got to get somewhere. You got to do something. You're kind of listening to me, but you're not totally present. I'll come back to it later. I'll listen later. Please do. If that's the case, if you feel like you're being pulled in a million different directions right now, please do come back and listen to this, because understand there's a difference between me asking you the question, what are you pretending to not know about yourself when you're in this mode, when you're in crisis management mode, versus if I was to ask you when you have pulled back into a nice, relaxed brainwave state that is much different than your active beta state that you find yourself in most of the day until you finally can shut everything down and try to go to sleep at night. When you go into this brainwave state, and this is what I teach you, which is this high alpha, it's a highly organized alpha state, and it's right at the borderline of a theta state, which is deep, deep relaxation. But when we're in this highly organized alpha state, what we're able to do is something really, really interesting. We're able to relax into a mode where the mind isn't going a mile a minute. We don't have all that stupid monkey chatter going on. We're not in survival mode consciousness. We're in this creative state. Literally is a brainwave state that is the creative state. It's a highly organized alpha state right on the borderline of theta. And when you're in this place, you are able to organize your thoughts in such a way that you get to pull back and notice these thoughts, but you're not noticing them from that egoic standpoint that you are in all day, every day. You are literally in that vantage point of that higher intelligence, that higher aspect of self, where you can review. And when I ask you a question like that, in that space, not only are you able to come up with incredibly potent and powerful and very resonant answers for yourself that allow you to get a deeper knowledge, a deeper inherent wisdom about who you really are underneath all the masks, underneath all the layers of bullshit. But you don't find yourself then being subject to, let's just say your answer is, let me give you an example. If I was to ask you that in the objective state, what are you pretending to not know about yourself? And you came up with very clearly, right off the bat, a statement that said that everything in my life is okay, but really I'm struggling to be happy and find joy. Whoa. But when you're in this creative state, instead of going down the rabbit hole of all those fragmentary emotions, those feelings that come up around that, maybe a feeling helplessness or futility or struggle or suffering or chaos or having to go back into and relive an old memory that allowed you to arrive at that conclusion. Instead, you just kind of go, huh, well, that's a revelation. What else is there? You limit yourself from, or I should say, you cut yourself off from this need to go into the egoic state that makes you go back into survival mode consciousness and say, oh my God, I'm such a mess. Oh my God, I'm so chaotic. How could anyone ever love me? How can I ever do anything I want in this life? I am miserable. I'm starting hearing the voice of my mom telling me I'm never going to amount to anything. Whatever that is, you don't do that when you're in the creative state. So what you're able to do then is clear and release into this place, which I show you a really powerful way to unburden yourself to this higher intelligence from this place. But what it does immediately is it opens up creative energy. It literally creates free energy because you are in this place where you are transmuting what you're releasing and turning it into free energy. It allows you to create. That's powerful. And you're doing this simultaneously. So you're releasing and creating in this same space. And over the span of about 4 to 5 weeks, you learn how to build on this. And when you build on this and create this expanded creative state that you go back to every single day, not only does it become more familiar to you, but you start upgrading your life level by level. Because you're releasing and creating, you're releasing and creating. So the second you are releasing that energy and creating free energy to bring something new, to produce something new that is meaningful, you are constantly scaling up your life. And you do it over a span of about 4 to 6 weeks. When you work with me in the program starting February 2nd, we do it, or 7th, we do it over 6 weeks. The process itself takes 4 weeks to learn. The more you do it, you achieve a level of mastery with it. And we all know what happens when we achieve self-mastery. We become the master builders and creators of our experience. How does that sound? Pretty good, right? So the women that I've worked with, and I've brought this to them just one-on-one, I've fine-tuned it and brought it in so that we can do it in a small group program. So this is what I'm teaching on February 7th. If you want to not only learn how to be the objective reviewer of your own life, but to be this active, dynamic creator of your own life, this is the ticket. This is what it's all about now. Here we are in this process of, yes, we're still in this momentum of spiritual awakening, but there's no really more amount of awakening that you're going to do that is going to expedite your human awakening process unless you start integrating and implementing the tools that you've already learned from the spiritual awakening. That is what Ascension is really all about, is bringing your whole spiritual awakening process, because you're already an awakened divine spirit being. It's your human awakening now that needs the golden touch. It's your human awakening now that needs a little push and a nudge forward. We need to evolve the brain to match with the crystalline structure of our bodies that is now taking hold because of the ascension process. And evolving the brain is not a passive process. Evolving the brain is a consciously directed process that we must participate in. And because we're talking about reprogramming, this is something that has to happen every day until it becomes not something that you do, it becomes who you are. Do you want the support and the guidance to do this? Because this is what I'm teaching. And yes, Tasha, it is absolutely recreating your DNA, and it's not only recreating it, it's bringing up the level of divinity that is already there by having our human awakening process meet the DNA where it's already at, okay? And you can only do this through conscious redirection. And to the untrained mind, meaning to someone who doesn't know how to do this on their own, there's a lot of fumbling. There's a lot of stumbling blocks. Unless you have someone who has done this, not only with herself, but with many clients at this point, and has seen some of the potential pitfalls that can happen here. And also, here's another thing that happens, and it's really powerful. And I did a post about this in my other group, Evolve into Ascension, about what happens when you're doing this work, because it's so intense, it's so powerful, what you're actually doing is jumping timelines. And you can call it creating new reality. It's the same. Creating a new reality and jumping timelines, those are the same things. When you are actively creating your new reality, you are jumping timelines. And sometimes what happens is really, really fast. So this is one of the pitfalls that I noticed for me, because I've been going deep down the rabbit hole with this work, because I will always make myself the guinea pig for my clients. I won't ever ask them to do anything I haven't tried myself. So I've been manifesting really, really fast. I've been manifesting things like at the snap of a finger. And because when we manifest things here in the physical, it's in a linear fashion. But when you're doing this kind of work and you are creating a new reality, you're jumping timelines, it's not necessarily linear, because you're working with a multidimensional aspect of you. You're working with multifaceted reality. So when this kind of instantaneous manifestation takes hold, sometimes it feels so big, and sometimes it feels like, whoa, 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 I just asked for that. It's already here. And so it kind of blows our minds a little bit. And if we're not consciously checked in, meaning if we're kind of letting the subconscious take over this process of dealing with the physical manifestations, what we'll kind of do is sabotage it and like push it away. So what I've learned how to do is kind of condition myself for this instant manifestation process so I don't push it away. And so I can kind of slow things down a little bit so that my physical body, my 3D body that likes things nice and linear, can allow this process to happen in a natural way where it feels like I don't have to push it away or reject it. Very interesting stuff. But this work is really powerful. We're talking about massive, massive shifts within 6 weeks. We're talking about women who have used this, who have cleared up chronic. I've had a woman who, I've used this example when I talked live the other day, has had chronic atopic dermatitis, and she used this method that I share with her to clear that up and other ailments in the physical body, and it's been 7 weeks and this has not come back. Women have radically, completely did a 180 in their lives, turned everything to, and these are women who have had their lives blow up, left a bad marriage, completely changed their lives around, started a new business. You can really use this for anything that you want. Long-term self-negating habits. I've had women who have changed their lives with weight loss, with really, really bad self-negating habits. One was an overspender, and this was really hurting her. She had crippling debt, and we helped her turn that around. It's really something you can use for everything. I share this a little bit in my Wealth Consciousness Collective, not the whole process, because this really needs to be a container of transformation just focused on this level of transportation. But it does, I let this spill over into my Wealth Consciousness Collective because it's powerful. If you are looking to take your spiritual awakening process and fully integrate it with your human awakening process and accelerate your human awakening process to match more of your divinity, to match more of the higher intelligence that already is fully functioning within you, and you want to be able to dig away at all the layers that are covering that up, and really live at the level of the highest ideal version of self, this is the course for you. This is for you. It's only open to 5 women. We're going to start February 7th. It's a single payment investment of $1,500. But you will have these tools, these resources that no matter what you want to do after this course is over, you can employ this method time and again to bring in or release anything that you want to in your life at all. Create a whole new personal reality for you. There's a woman who I shared this with, and we worked together in late August, the fall of 2018, and she kept using this method. And she just emailed me a couple days ago and let me know that she hit the $1 million mark in her business using these tools. She just kept using them after we stopped working together. She didn't stop. And she was using this meditation method, this induction method that I share. She was using it 2 or 3 times a day because she had a very clear goal. She knew what she wanted to get rid of in her life. She knew exactly what she wanted to create, and she was focused on this. And she did this where this is not a passive program. You have to do this. You don't have to do it 3 times a day like she did, But I'm just telling you, those are the results that she got from doing this 3 times a day and spending 40 minutes 3 times a day doing this meditation, doing this work that I share with you. It is so powerful. And that was her goal. That's what she wanted. She wanted to hit that $1 million mark. And she was surprised, but not that surprised when she got that result, because she'd been working so much towards this and putting her energy and attention into creating this into being. And she did. It was pretty awesome, because I've never worked with anyone who's done that before. So it was awesome for me too. So comment here if you are interested, or you can reach out to me, private message me. It is a single payment investment. There is no payment plan for this, because your financial investment, your energy investment has to match what you get out of this course, because it is that powerful. And I really hope to have some of you message me and reach out to me. Jennifer says, always concerned about being in the wrong timeline. Well, there's no such thing, really. Because if you find yourself in a certain timeline over and over again, there's something that timeline has to teach you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be constantly redirected to it. So remember that question, what are you pretending not to know? Maybe you could apply that to that predicament and see what comes up. All right, ladies, so much love and peace to you. Thanks for watching and listening. Bye-bye.